detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. We're back, what's this, week 3 or week 4 in isolation, Jared?
Oh, something like that. I'm losing track, mate.
Yes, well, put it this way, I've become quite bored.
I'm not bored. I'm okay, but it's just one day rolling into another.
They all seem a bit the same.
Lost track of, I got plenty to keep me busy there, mate. Don't
don't get me wrong. I totally appreciate the fact that we can watch a lot more film and, you spend some time sitting on the couch, but geez, mate, there is times where I'm kind of like, strangely enough, I was pining for work the other day. That's how desperate things
are you sure you haven't got a case of something?
I could have something.
Mate. You need to get yourself checked out.
Tonight's episode, Jared, you were a big supporter of this one, 2010's Machete.
Yes. I was a big supporter of this one.
I am looking forward to discussing this. But before we do that, Jared, just let's do a quick up or down. I put a trailer on our Facebook page the other day. It's for a Chris Hemsworth action film made by Netflix, which I think is coming out on the 24th, maybe, of this month. And it's called Extraction. I believe it's written by the Russo brothers, who wrote and directed the Avengers films, last couple of Avengers films. And it's directed by one of the stunt guys, guy by the name of Sam Hargrave. He's made some short films, but this is his first big project, I guess. The trailer looks extremely generic, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's kind of like a semi-up because I'm a fan of Hemsworth and I might give it a bit of a go. I've got nothing else to do.
yeah. You'll get bored one day. It sounds like you're already there.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. It started off a little bit generic. As it went on, I thought it started to gather a little bit more steam. I thought the relationship between him and the kid that he's got to extract looks like it could get some mileage there. But yeah, I'm interested to see Hemsworth in just full action man mode, because I think it didn't blow me away, the trailer, but I'll certainly check it out. I'm interested in it. And to be honest, I haven't checked out a lot of the Netflix originals lately. I haven't found any of them to be all that sort of interesting to what I'm actually keen to see. So
yeah, I'll give it a sort of a on the side.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't done a lot of action films outside of Thor, like his Avengers stuff and Thor and all that.
Well, that's what I mean. Like the other action sort of things he's gone for, or that could be classified as action. The Avengers one's essentially like there's always been a large element of sort of comedy in there, and he hasn't done a whole lot more in that field other than what was that remake, Red Dawn or whatever it was. Did he show up in that one?
Yeah, and that was actually all right, if I remember correctly.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No. But I think, Netflix would be loving it because they're going to have a bloody captive audience here. Everyone will just be sitting on Netflix waiting for something new to come out.
Exactly. And let's be honest here, they could drop just shit, and it'll get views because essentially millions and millions of people are just sitting around looking for something to watch. So, they could drop a Sandler film.
Six Underground got plenty of views when we had the option to fucking leave the house. So, I watched that and I should have left the house instead.
Well, they could drop it. This would be the perfect time for them to drop a Sandler film.
Absolutely.
That's
but
true.
Yeah, that whole situation with this, but also being sort of, having Hemsworth in it, having the pedigree of the Russo brothers, it's looking pretty good for them, I would think, on releasing this one.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's a good idea. Just a quick thing, non-horror or movie related. Obviously, I'm very excited about the Last Dance documentary that's dropping on the 20th.
Yeah.
I believe you'll be all over that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a documentary about the Chicago Bulls last championship season. But, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that as well.
Yeah.
Because there's
I can't wait.
Because there's no sport, I've been watching all those basketball DVDs you gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the mood for this.
Well, it could be, it could be sort of horror related for some of Jordan's teammates having to relive some of the treatment that they would have copped. It's just, knowing what we know about him and hearing a little bit about what's to come. They describe one person described him as homicidally competitive or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, I heard that. Look, you know what? Watching those games again and seeing him in action. I mean, look, you can see why the guy's the greatest basketballer in history. But I think I don't think you get to there unless you're a bit of an arsehole. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm an arsehole and I've got nothing to be impressed
different ways to
about.
go about it. You got to, yeah, well, that's it. We're underachieving arseholes, so it's not, they're not tied together. But
it's not a given. It's not a given that you're a great sportsman because you're an absolute arsehole. But
nothing's promised in that department. Yeah, look, I think all of those top-level athletes have to have some level of kind of ego and kind of an edge to, there's good teammates still. There's great athletes who have been good teammates, but, yeah, there's plenty that have basically just, if someone can't produce, they're not keen to see him hang around, and they're not shy about telling him about it. And I think Jordan was possibly an all-timer in that department. So.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And not to just sort of deviate off the subject a little bit, but also did you see the details about the Tiger King episode that's coming possibly this Sunday?
Yeah, I saw there's another
Joel
episode
McHale's
on
hosting.
the way. Really?
Yeah.
Right, I didn't hear that.
Which could be amusing.
I mean, shit, you take a show like that and you add Joel McHale, it's can't miss, surely.
Because I thought it was going to be like another full episode of the documentary, but it seems like it's more of a catch-up.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right. Let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 2010's Machete.
On September 3rd, one man will fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Machete.
You want me to help you kill all these men?
Yes, Padre.
I'll see what I can do.
Rated R.
Machete from 2010, directed by Robert Rodriguez, who directed Sin City, Spy Kids, and there's also a second director, a guy by the name of Ethan Maniquis. I didn't actually know there was a second director involved. He doesn't seem to have done anything else. This is all from Internet and Movie Database. So it was produced by Robert Rodriguez, Elizabeth Avelian, and Rick Swartz, who produced the others. Written by Robert Rodriguez and Alvaro Rodriguez, who wrote From Dusk Till Dawn 3, The Hangman's Daughter. Have you seen that?
I have.
Well, I don't know why I'd ask.
I saw the sequels, yes, I did.
Were they any good? Again, off topic.
Oh, look, I can barely remember them, to be honest, but I don't recall them being overly good.
That's a no. Okay,
correct. That's a no.
It stars Danny Trejo as Machete, Robert De Niro as Senator McLaughlin, Jessica Alba as Sartana, Steven Seagal as Torres, and Michelle Rodriguez as Lutz. The budget was $10.5 million, and the box office was 45 worldwide. And this is the first theatrical released Seagal film since Half Past Dead in 2002. Shit, the guy went bloody radio silent for 8 years.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he cranked out 50 other
probably,
films in Russia or something.
Yeah, Half Past Dead probably shouldn't have made it either.
Well, they were basking in the glory of exit wounds. I shouldn't say glory, but, the financial... it made some money, exit wounds, and so suddenly Half Past Dead. Let's get that to the cinemas too.
Yeah.
Did that have a rapper in it?
Yeah, I'm almost positive it did.
Wasn't DMX. I think it might have been Ja Rule.
Yeah, quite possible.
All right. What are your thoughts, mate, on Machete?
I was always a big fan of this one because I was interested in this sort of thing. From the minute you saw the trailer in Grindhouse, and you were just, thinking, oh, geez, it'd be awesome if that was real. And then they go and extend the joke to a whole movie. I was all in. I was, especially after Grindhouse and seeing Planet Terror, I was all in on this one. It didn't hold up as well as Planet Terror. Personally, I think Planet Terror nails that kind of exploitation vibe, and it's just awesome. But this one kind of dips in and out of it. But when it's in that little pocket, it's really like it's a fucking hell of a good time.
Yeah.
When it sort of drops out of it a little bit, it's a tad boring in a couple of touches, especially considering you expect it to be bloody, flat knackers the whole way through, and it's not quite. But yeah, the angles that they take to get a few laughs generally work pretty well for me. So I'll be a little bit generous and go 3.5. I think
3.5. Shit, if you're being generous, I'm right there. Yeah, look, the knackers aren't flat, but she's pretty balls to the wall the whole way. It's just over the top, tongue in cheek, violent silliness that works, and I think it does kind of nail a fair bit of that vibe of like 70s exploitation revenge flick type of thing, and it's directed
definitely
that way by Rodriguez. Yep. Agreed, it doesn't quite hang the whole, like, it kind of drops out of that actually when he gets, about half an hour in, it kind of does drop out of that a little bit, and it kind of comes back to it again in the finale somewhat. Yeah, it does, definitely. It comes back towards the end, and yeah, that's where it's there's a stretch of about half an hour where it's just, it is, the knackers are flat. They're definitely flat. They are just squeezed dry in that last half hour. Bloody hell. Look, the plot is generic as it comes, in a sense of, you got half a dozen skeezy villains, and they incorporate the whole the idea of illegal immigrants and all that sort of stuff. But it's fairly generic across the board. But it's just balls to the wall so much that it kind of makes up for that.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter,
and that's
kind of irrelevant.
It is. That's what you're there for. You're there for exactly as those parts where you're saying, they give you that generic setup, but they set up a couple of those villains, and you're just like, yep, that's exactly what I expected. That's what I'm here for. So let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, I hadn't actually seen this previously, but this is a first time watch for me. Right. I gave it 4 out of 5.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I really loved it. I thought it was really, really good fun. And Danny Trejo, mate, I've loved the bloke forever. And his deadpan delivery and his tough guy swagger and his weathered face is just perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll get to his face in detail.
Well, as I read one review that described his face as 4 miles of torn up road, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, that's another part of the. It's got that underdog quality because Danny Trejo's kind of this loved sort of performer, but he's always been in these little roles. And for someone to take him at like 66 years old or 65 or whatever he was when we were making this, for someone to take him and say, no, you're the star of this one, and it's awesome. Like, yeah, it's so funny, and it gets a bit of mileage out of that stuff. Like, but yeah, look, I was almost at a 4. There was a couple of things that I was just sort of thinking about in the middle there that dropped it off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, shit, I could go back and watch it tomorrow and give it 4.5. So who knows? Yeah, Danny Trejo was my first like. I mean, the guy he's awesome. He just nails it. And you're right, it's kind of like he has no business being the action hero. No, but it works. And knowing his story, I believe there's actually a really good documentary about it, about his time in prison and all that sort of stuff.
and knowing what he's come through and the things he's done and he's given back, and he's become an actor of some note, playing what most people would consider small character parts. He's become very well known, and I think he just nails it. This is him at his most enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Because everyone's allowed to have a fucking ball with this material. Like, as you said, knowing kind of his backstory, it actually lends it a little bit of cred. And he looks like a man who would be of the reputation that he has in the film.
Yes.
He looks like he's seen some shit.
Yeah, and it does. His personal journey kind of fills out the character somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, look, as I said, I'm going to get to his face. It is well worn. It kind of works here. He's not moving sprightly. Let me just say, he's moving Dolph Lundgren style.
He is, but they don't require him to do a hell of a lot of, a lot of the setups of the shots and things, and this all plays into the exploitation vibe of it. They set up all these shots where we'll be out in this open space, but then all of a sudden we get another shot, and Machete just kind of pops out from behind a wall or something, or somewhere he couldn't have possibly really gotten to, and it also plays in, when you go back to some of those exploitation flicks. They weren't always with, big name actors. They had to make do with either, if you were looking for a good looking chap to fill the role, then you might have had that, or you had a hard ass that was kind of, you could buy as this kind of role.
Yeah.
And as we said, having Trejo there kind of lends it that credibility in that. Sense.
Very much so. Very much so.
He definitely I think the film would be hired for looks category.
No. I don't think amongst Danny's years and body of work is male model.
No.
Ever.
No.
So,
no.
Look, he's got, you know what? He's got a distinctive face too. Like, everybody knows what Danny Trejo looks like.
Yep.
And it works here. He plays it. He plays it well. And look, it's not an acting performance of great nuance. Like, you didn't have to, but he does exactly what you need.
Mm.
And even there's a couple of little moments where he has to get out of the tough guy routine and show a bit of emotion, very briefly. And the guy's capable. So everything works in that sense. He's also surrounded by a very good cast for a movie of this ilk, I guess.
Oh, it's rock solid.
I mean, you got De Niro. I mean, I'm assuming he was available for a couple of days. I don't think he was there for long.
But look, if you are De Niro and you're sometimes required to do some heavy roles that might take an emotional toll, and then you get this script come across your desk, you might look at it and just go, "Yeah, fuck it, that'd be fun."
I think that's the case here.
Either that, or they did have as you said, occasionally sort of reference that they might have had some sort of incriminating photos of De Niro to get him to stoop to this sort of level.
What's that? You're not going to sign up? Well, I've got to go and do some research, and I'll come back to you. But the thing about having De Niro Don Johnson, again, short little spurts where those guys are in it.
I feel like these guys, like Rodriguez and Tarantino together, because Rodriguez put him in the Dusk Till Dawn series as well, the TV series. I feel like these guys kind of have played a bit of a role in him getting back to that. This sort of Don Johnson is what you see in Knives Out.
Yeah.
Just a little less of the, it's not laid on as kind of, here it's a one-note character and he's got a couple of those cheesy lines and that. Knives Out's a little more sort of fleshed out, but it's the same sort of thing. It's a bit of comedy, and so I feel like these guys actually played a role in him kind of getting back to that
well,
sort
it's
of
funny
status.
Too, because I also think that these guys, like, there's a handful of really seasoned actors here, and I'm talking about Don Johnson, talking about Cheech Marin. I had a lot of time for Jeff Fahey. I thought he was really good. And I think what guys like Rodriguez and Tarantino do is they bring them back in because they know they're good actors.
Yeah,
They're just
and
guys
Jeff Fahey's great in Planet Terror as well.
Yeah. But they're guys who fell out of being leading men.
Yeah.
But they're so capable and such good actors that you find parts for them. And Don Johnson, I mean, he's been cranking out work for 10 years. You know, he's back to being very much in demand. When he probably had a bit of a rough period there after sort of Miami Vice or Nash Bridges or whatever was over. You know, so I feel that these guys kind of bring back the same people because they're good to work with too. And I think Rodriguez is the sort of guy that you want to work with. He does a bit of everything. Yeah,
well, I think the people that they get into these movies, I think it's a testament to them. Like, obviously, we don't know the ins and the outs, but it's got to suggest that these guys are good to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, Don Johnson doesn't keep coming back if you're a Bruce Willis isn't turning up to Kevin Smith movies anymore. So
that's right.
It's not a situation like that. They obviously have to share some sort of creative kind of similarities, or they get on personality wise. So I think that's and it's not just one guy. It's a number of people that just continue to come back to work for these guys. So I think that suggests that they make it a good time.
Yeah. I think that everybody's pretty good here, barring
for the most part.
They've got one exception. I'll talk about it later. But I'm coming right out here. Surprisingly, Seagal is quite good. This works for Seagal.
I would agree.
That sort of tough guy, like sort of, low talking kind of menace shtick that he's been doing his whole career, it actually works here. And as a villain, there's actually a moment where he actually comes across quite intimidating when he says, when he realises that it's Machete who they're after, and he says, where is he? And Jeff Fahey says, he's soon to be dead or
dying or something.
Dead or dying. And Seagal just kind of looks at the camera and goes, so what is he, fucking dead or dying? As if to sort of say, you don't know, tell me that he's dead. And it had a little bit of menace to it. And ultimately, the guy actually gets a giggle at the end too.
He does.
I got a good laugh out of that.
It's also the perfect later Seagal role because he's on screen for 15 minutes,
20 minutes maybe,
and he's 20 minutes, and he's sitting down for 80% of it. So he would have fucking loved doing this one.
Yeah.
But this is where you see this. As we said, there was a little bit of it in Exit Wounds, but you see this and you just wish that the guy had a fucking Shrek of self-awareness because a shred of self-awareness because he would be perfect in these kind of things.
Yeah. And in fact,
he fits the bill here perfectly.
Why not look for villain roles in better films?
Well, it's good enough for Van Damme.
That's right. Van Damme took the same approach. I think Van Damme approaches his career a little bit differently now, knowing that, look, I'm not a box office drawer. I'm not the main star. I'm not always the hero. And it seems to have worked okay for Van Damme. So it was a little bit of comedy for Jean-Claude.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he did the villain role. He did the villain role in The Expendables. He did JCVD, which was kind of this whole movie breaking down the stage of his career where he was at. As you mentioned, he did the Amazon one that was comedy.
Yeah.
Even something like, what was that one I watched just recently? Not The Bouncer. Is it? I can't remember what it's called. It was something like The Bouncer. And he's taken a different approach to it. It's still got some elements of classic Van Damme, but he's kind of a broken down sort of down on his luck sort of bloke rather than king shit of everything. Like,
I think Van Damme's embraced the age side of things. And Seagal is still kind of churning out these heroic films where he's the man, and in his late 60s.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work, but he's quite good here. Like, I was actually reasonably impressed because initially I was like, oh, shit. Seagal.
But it all fits. Like, it all fits. The role that he plays even kind of allows for his, shall we say, sloppy physique.
Yeah.
the time. Like, he's the head of the bloody cartel, whatever it is. He's sitting up there getting served his meals, just, you know, as they show him in that scene, around the pool, just drinks, food, whatever.
Yeah.
So you can kind of take that, all right, he's a bit older, he's not on the front line, so even that fits.
Yeah, exactly. And so I give a bit of credit to Seagal here, because I think he kind of embraces this role a little bit more. And again, maybe that's a testament to someone like Rodriguez who sort of says, look, you know, I'm going to give you a role. This is what we want from you, and maybe Seagal sort of got on board with it. So I appreciated his work. I thought it was good, and he doesn't outstay his welcome, as you said. He's there for 20 minutes, maybe maximum, and we do get to see a little bit of his fighting skills, which is great. You know, like they still managed to squeeze in something that we know him for. So I kind of was pretty happy with the way he was handled.
Yep, absolutely.
The opening scene where he busts into Torres's shack. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Heads are getting cut off left and right.
I love the bit where he cuts you see one hand hit the deck, and then he grabs the gun that's still got the hand attached.
Yeah.
And he uses it for a couple of shots, and then he looks at the hand, and then kind of just drops it and keeps going with the machete. And I believe that's where he walks into that room of three blokes and then just proceeds to fucking take all three heads off in one go. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I loved it. I was just like, what is this? He was just like, that whole thing just kind of sets a tone. Like, you knew immediately this is not to be taken seriously in any way.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
It just, it ramps that up for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of outdoes everything over and over. Like, in fact, at the end of the day, the opening scene is kind of like tame by the final, once the finale hits, and everything is just going off left and right.
I think, you know, the funny thing too is I watched this, obviously we'd watched Last Action Hero not too long beforehand, and I felt like I watched that opening scene and I was kind of like, I wish that's what some of the violence in Last Action Hero was like.
Yeah.
Because it would have been like when you're in Jack Slater's world, you're behind the curtain a little bit, so you're seeing the full effects of everything that was going on.
Yeah.
When we watched this, it was just like, I was the same as you. Like, it's so over the top, but none of it is kind of impactful violence. You're sitting there fucking laughing because it's just so ridiculous.
And they kind of embraced that, whereas something like Last Action Hero didn't quite know where. And I think we were pretty scathing in this fact when we did the episode on it, is they didn't know what tone they were going for. They didn't really know what they wanted.
Like, you look at it and you think where Arnie was at the time, it was never gonna be that level. It was always going to get, you know, they were always going to get someone who was a big name, and then the violence was never going to go to a sort of large extent. But yeah, you watch this and you just think, man, you incorporate a little bit of that into Last Action Hero, and that movie is fucking 10 times better.
Yeah. I could not stop laughing at De Niro's senator character's advertisement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It kind of had a low Trump vibe.
You know what? I watched it and I was like, I'm sitting there going, holy shit, this was near 10 years ago. What? It is 10 years ago this year.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, this is fucking Trump. I mean, he even wants a fucking wall between him and Mexico. It was unbelievable.
It was like prophetic. Like, it was like he was prophesying in advance.
Jeff Fay, at one point, says, oh, yeah, he wants, the Mexicans are going to build it and then he's going to send them all back home. And I'm sitting there going, fucking hell. I don't think people have kind of picked up on how
how so spot on and how close this is. And I just love the way it starts with parasites are invading our country.
Yeah. I watched it and I'm like, this is Donald Trump's platform, everything about it except the gun.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all that's missing.
Exactly. So it's kind of ahead of itself somewhat.
Yeah, and De Niro, as you said, he's hilarious. He keeps as you said, the whole parasite stuff. And I think there was a couple of times they used that classic trailer voice
Yeah.
And I think that was one of them, which gave it an even more kind of, comedic tone. Yeah, I was laughing, but then I was like, oh, shit. As you said, prophetic. They've actually nailed it here. 10 years, 10 years
it's
out.
kind of like it's almost like creepy how close to what Trump has been touting
Yeah. Yep.
this is, which is, very much very strange considering it was well before he got involved in politics.
Mm.
I like the fight in the alley where Machete earns $500 by just avoiding punches, eating a taco, and the bloke breaks his arm on it.
Yeah, he'd never drop the taco. That's right. He's just kind of standing there holding the taco and just dodging left and right. And yeah, that was good, actually. It was a good way to introduce it.
Yeah.
I always thought like when he gets in there, you're thinking, oh, yeah, this is classic action stuff. I'd actually kind of forgotten what eventuated.
I thought he was just
you're
going to kick his
this is-
ass,
Yeah, I thought it was going to get they were going to get into the fight and it was going to be over the top. But then I'm like, no, I don't think they could have done it any better. Like to prove his kind of toughness than just stand there, stone faced with taco in hand and just dodge, just dodge it until the bloke destroys his arm.
I'll tell you what bit had me absolutely just loving it was when he gets taken to the hospital and the doctor's there going, he survived a bullet in the head because he's currently got a bullet lodged in his head. It ricocheted off it.
Yeah, I was the same. He says something like, well, he's very lucky that he got shot beforehand or something like that. That's exactly, that was where the tone was just bang on. Like it was spot on, exactly what we were after.
Yeah, and breaking up that over-the-top violence, which is extremely sort of nasty, but then having these comedic elements, just as you say, you can't take any of it seriously, so you kind of do laugh at it. I also had to laugh at the doctor's comment about how he's looking at the nurse's backside, and she goes, I can feel your eyes on my uterus, and he goes, you're lucky it wasn't the colon.
Yeah, he was pretty good, actually. He was only in it very briefly. Shows up at the end again, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
But yeah, that sequence followed up by more over the top where he's taken the bloody scalpels and fucking put them on that belt.
Yeah.
And within, a couple of minutes, he's hanging out the window by someone's fucking intestine or something.
What a sequence.
Brilliant.
I just love the fact that you see him put his hand in the guy's guts and then you just see 65-year-old Danny Trejo sort of hobbling down the hallway.
But I think they also they take the time to go full kind of exploitation mode and just get that quick shot of the guy's face where he breaks into it and starts screaming as Trejo's fucking unfurling his innards. Yeah, that was good.
Absolute magic. There was another sequence that I'll get to in a second, but just quickly, I had to laugh every single time that Machete came in contact with a woman. He basically went into pornographic film music.
Yeah.
He just kind of disappears out of shot, and the whole idea is, Machete was involved. But this is where his face comes into play, Jared. I mean, he looks like he's been dragged face down along the bitumen road for about 200 kilometres. At 80 k's an hour plus. And I can guarantee you he is not getting laid.
Yeah. He's absolutely like his face is like the definition of bloody when someone says he's got a head like a half chewed minty. That's what they're talking about. Like but that giving him that kind of James Bond sort of allure to the ladies is just so funny because he's at the time he's like 60 odd, he's weathered as he's got he's just he's just not that guy.
Weathered is actually being nice.
Yeah. He's not that guy, but we're just gonna say yes, he is, and it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I did love that. I mean, there's a sequence where Jessica Alba wakes up next to him on her bed, and quite frankly, I thought she was going to start screaming.
He did in that sequence where he's laying very still. He did resemble a corpse at that point.
I'll tell you what, mate. This is the bit that got biggest laughs for me, and it was so innocuous that I don't know why I was laughing so hard. But when they blow up Michelle Rodriguez's place, some dude just comes catapulting out of the explosion like a javelin. Just lands in the car.
Yes. Yeah, that. I didn't notice that. He just kind of flies straight out the roof, doesn't he?
I was just absolutely in stitches because I was like, oh my God, where's that come from?
Yeah, well, it's when that sort of stuff's happening that you're just like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm here for. I'm getting it in massive doses and just kind of loving every minute of it.
And this is that's where it folds back on the whole exploitation film. You know, this is the kind of thing you got, you know, in those films.
Yep.
Super outrageous. Anything goes, and really anything does go here. Like, you know, it was just everything goes. Yeah. So I just couldn't stop laughing at that. And I think that's how you got to approach it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there was another one of those for mine was Tom Savini's kind of sizzle reels. Like when he's kind
Hitman.
When he's advertising 1-800-HITMAN, and you see him kind of standing on his motorbike with a bow and arrow, firing bows and arrows. The bit that made me laugh, you get a little bit of him pumping weights, but then you get a shot of him breaking out into those kind of finger push-ups. And they take the front-on shot of Tom Savini, and he is selling it like an absolute champion. And then they cut to the side, and there's obviously someone else cranking out the finger push-ups. Like, I just absolutely loved it. And as you said, it was just kind of, it wasn't sort of front and centre. It was on the screen, but someone was talking over it.
Yeah. Well, they were going, the best hitman in Texas. And what does it say on the screen? Like what you see? Then hire me.
Yeah, something stupid like that.
Oh,
that was
great.
Amusing.
I also loved his form when he says, after he's tried to kill Machete at one point, I think, and then Jeff Fahey turns around and he goes, he's coming for us. And Savini goes, he's coming for you.
Yes. I believe, I can't remember, but I think Savini's in the sequel.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he comes back. I can't remember. I think they might actually team up. Don't quote me on that because I haven't seen it in a while, but if I recall correctly, I think Machete might actually enlist him this time around.
Right. I got a good laugh out of the when he goes to see Cheech Marin and he's like, Cuban? And he's like, Mexican. And he opens a box of Mexican cigars. It's a massively rolled joints.
Yeah, awesome. Cheech was very good, actually.
Yes.
I feel like his part came after a bit of a lull. And then once they got into the church, that was when the vibe just kind of went straight back to exactly what we're expecting and sort of just really nailed it.
Yeah, and the church sequence was cool, like him using the shotguns and blowing heads clean off, and the whole one where he comes around the pillar, like he puts them both over his shoulders and the pillar's sort of protecting him and he just goes and both heads get blown off at the same time and all that stuff.
And he gives it the God forgives, I don't.
Yeah.
And just blows the guy's head off.
But it also ends with them crucifying him, which I thought was quite nasty.
Yeah, it was very nasty, but that's, as I was saying, like, that's exactly what those exploitation films kind of played on. They were always looking for an angle that would cause a bit of controversy and get them noticed. So that sort of fit beautifully. And Cheech was fantastic. Like, his acting performance was, he was getting a few laughs, and then when he's on the
it was only brief, but it was a nice 10 minutes.
And him and Faye going back and forth, like Cheech is over the top, kind of, screaming, getting his arms nailed there, and Faye, as you mentioned, Faye is just he's at peak form down the stretch there.
I love that bit where he's drinking the wine and he's like, the blood of Christ tastes like Merlot to me.
Yeah, he was so good.
I was actually kind of surprised with Michelle Rodriguez getting shot. I didn't expect that. But then I also couldn't stop laughing at Don Johnson's henchman who continues to vomit every time someone gets killed in front of him.
Yeah. And at that point he says something like, "Oh, you got to work on this," or something like that, or you really got to work on this.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. For some reason it just got me chuckling. My final like is the last half hour, the finale. It's just craziness. Like, there is just gunfire left and right. There are heads getting removed. There's people being chopped up and stuff's exploding. We even get a bloke crushed by one of those hydraulic vehicles.
Yeah, that's right. The car falls on him. That's fucking good.
I must admit, I could not stop thinking about Leslie Nielsen as, if I'm wrongfully accused, as Machete's and his crew are driving towards the compound and their vehicles are going. I'm just thinking. Yep. And
Leslie.
They even throw De Niro into the mix, dressed up as like a Mexican.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was good. I love how he jumps sides and he's like, they give him the clothes and he's like, "You're gonna take out those good old boys out there," or something like that. Yeah, I'm with you. And kind of jumps in that with them, and that's when I even like the little Lindsay Lohan bit where she comes in fucking dressed up in the nun's outfit.
Yeah.
And,
my actual final like is Seagal's death. Like, he gives that monologue about, look, this is nothing. but he's like, I could kill you right now, but this is nothing. Then he goes, but I know that you'll be waiting in hell for me. So he just decides to kill himself, and he takes like 30 seconds. He's yanking the machete left and right to try. I'm just like,
again, that's where you just look at it and think, what could have been for later career Seagal.
He kind of nails the silliness of it, and even to the point that he's playing kind of straight. Like, it's
I don't know whether it's because he just didn't. I mean, he's noted for not really having a sense of humour, so I don't know whether he just didn't get the laughs of it and played it straight, and that's why it worked. But I feel he did.
It actually felt like to me that he understood that because Trejo plays it straight. Like, he plays it deadpan, he plays it straight. But I think everyone in the cast, and that includes Seagal, understands that there's kind of a wink and a nod to the audience about how silly this stuff is. And so he kind of delivers that death in the right manner. He's kind of like, oh, shit. He's yanking it around and everything, and so he's playing up to it. And so it's probably the first time where I felt you understand the joke. You're in on it. Yeah, and you deliver a performance that's decent.
I tend to agree with you on that. I just wish he had done it more. I think that ship has well and truly sailed now.
Yeah, it's long
and probably sank on the ocean somewhere. But
no, I think it's sailed and landed in Russia. He's currently negotiating 500-picture deal.
Bloody hell! I wish I could see one.
Yeah. Have you got any others? Any other like?
Yeah, I got a couple. Like the idea of the network.
Yeah.
I think that was a kind of a funny little way to go by Robert Rodriguez, because he's created that McLaughlin character, and then the network is kind of a play on what people that are against the immigration and what are worried about. He's kind of playing playing with the idea that we're all connected, and I'll ring my phone and fucking every other Mexican in the country will get the message. this idea that's how it all works. I thought it was funny to play with that as one of the central kind of ideas. Also, a couple of Jeff Fay lines that had me laughing quite heavily. One of them was a cheap gag, but the part where he's sitting there eating breakfast with his family, and he's blowing up about, if we leave the borders open, this is what the country will become. And then he looks at his wife and hands the plate and goes, "Give me another taco." That's right. And then the other one where he's just hired Machete, and he goes, this could shoot the pecker off a mosquito at 1,000 yards and leave the balls unruffled. I thought, I've heard that line. I've heard lines like that a bunch of times, but not the kicker with leaving the balls unruffled. I thought, I like it. Yeah, that was pretty much. There's a couple of really
good lines there in amongst it. That's not. The film's not super awesome dialogue-wise, but there are a number of good lines. Even De Niro has a couple of really good ones later on. Well, funny ones, where he's talking about how Machete is after him and all this sort of shit.
And obviously you get the classic, you get the Machete don't text, which I believe was I think Robert Rodriguez said that was something Danny Trejo actually said to him. He said, "I'll text you" or something, and Trejo said, "I don't text." So he put that in the movie.
But the funny thing was,
then also led to another classic fucking laugh when he goes, "Machete improvises," and then you see him with the phone, and he's fucking just bashing it with his finger, and then kind of leaves it. Then the next thing is Jeff Fay going, "Oh, I got a text from Machete."
It doesn't say "I'll kill you, you motherfucker" or something like that.
He says, "Oh, you fucked with the wrong Mexican" or whatever. And that's where Tom Savini says he's coming after you.
There's a number of reasonably funny lines in there, so it kind of works out nicely, peppered throughout, and everyone gets a bit of a go here and there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, the dislikes are pretty thin for me. I haven't got a lot of dislikes.
No, on the heaps.
On the acting front, poor old Lindsay Lohan is. Yeah, she's fallen a long way. She actually seems a little out of place. Maybe it's because of the acting. I don't know.
It was definitely like a stunt casting.
Yeah.
Sort of playing on her reputation at the time, I guess.
Yeah. But she's not very convincing. Admittedly, she's only in it for, a handful of minutes. Maybe 5 minutes total.
Yeah.
So, look, it's not really a part, so to speak. You probably could have done without her. But
possibly. It wasn't a huge part of the film. I don't think it would have made too much difference if you didn't have that there.
Yeah. There are a number of flat spots, and I think you pointed it out, in between kind of carnage and over-the-top sort of action. There are moments where it's sort of like they're trying to develop character, and I mean, just a lot of Jessica Alba's stuff's kind of boring.
And I've never thought Jessica Alba is one that should be carrying a lot of acting weight in a movie.
No,
I don't think she's that bad in this, but she's. I agree. When there's parts where it's kind of centered around her, that it sort of falls off a little bit.
I think it's because that stuff is just inherently boring. It's kind of like it's all the sort of like set up.
Some of the parts with her was where it would drop the exploitation film vibe.
Yeah.
It just seemed to be like whenever we went back to her character, that's where it fell out of that tone. And when the tone was right there in that vibe of the exploitation films, it was just gold.
Yeah.
But it felt like the parts where you were going towards her was where you were taking us away from scenes like in the hospital, for example, where everything was clicking, Yeah,
and I don't know, maybe that. I mean, look, the difficulty with making a Machete film is you had to flesh it out. You had to give it something. Yeah. Because you couldn't just have Danny Trejo walking around cutting a swath. It wouldn't have lasted more than an hour. So
no, you had to put a thin sort of story together, which they did, and I thought the bones of the story were fine. That's exactly what we were expecting, and I liked a couple of the little twists and turns that we sort of saw coming, and I thought that was all okay.
the sword fight between Seagal and Machete is kind of underwhelming a little bit for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of because everything that came before was just so up there to end on a sword fight that didn't really sort of take my breath away, so to speak. I mean, I could have seen something like the bloody Monty Python skit where the guy keeps getting his fucking arms and his legs cut off.
Yeah, I was
continues to
thinking
fight.
exactly the same thing. And I'm thinking that speech that Seagal gives and the way that he dies, doing that, but with one arm that's fucking not there and fucking spurting blood while he's talking about it, that would be funny.
I just felt it was a little bit underwhelming. It wasn't particularly long or sort of intricate fight. And I guess you're talking about two guys who are in their 60s. You know, so they were trying to sort of keep it simple, which I appreciate, but it just didn't quite satisfy me. Put it that way.
Yeah.
What else? Have you got anything else in your canon?
Yeah, only a couple. It sort of goes along with the tone thing that we were talking about. I feel like I don't know whether setting it in the modern day was the right call. Like, with the sort of political stuff, you probably could have still run with that if you had to set the movie without in a period where you didn't have the mobile phones and things like that, which is what the trailer sort of looked like.
Like in the 80s?
Yeah. I felt like there's parts of it where I was just sort of wishing, you know, maybe you should have committed fully to the exploitation stuff, including the time period. I mean, there's nothing that takes you out of the movie like Jessica Alba playing fucking a Wii game at one point. Yeah. What it looks like. That sort of stuff is where it sort of drops out a little bit. And the use of the computers to talk back and forth with Seagal. Yeah. It's sort of... There's part of me that wishes that it had a little bit of that James Bond vibe where it's just like a TV sitting on his desk. Yeah. And he just turns the TV on and then, you know, Seagal's on the, you know, talking to him through that. Like Bond used to be, where you've got that kind of illusion of technology. We don't really need an explanation of how it's working, but when you've got the computer doing it instead, it just sort of takes you out of it just a little bit. Yeah. It's a fairly minor one. It happens a few times where I sort of wish they had just committed to the time period as well. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot of the enjoyment out of it for me.
No. I agree. I think it would have been interesting to see it set in the 1980s or the 1990s or something like that. A little bit pre-mobiles, a little bit pre-tech.
You can still make those political statements, you know. You can still set it in that time period, but make a political statement that's sort of current to the time you're making the film in, obviously. So
sure.
I also feel like, although I did kind of, you know, I see why De Niro was the one to continue on, I sort of wish Jeff Fahey had shot him instead. Yeah. When Jeff Fahey gets shot, I just sort of felt like I liked De Niro, but it felt like he was the smaller role. And I felt like instead of saying, you know, who's the one that can save you now, I felt like Jeff Fahey kind of could have just said, oh, well, our career's fucked now, so just shot him. Yeah. Because I feel like it still would have worked. He'd expressed sort of the similar kind of hatred of immigrants and whatever, so it still would have worked to have him in the Mexican get-up at the end. Being mistaken for the Mexican, I should say. So, yeah.
See, I had a bit of a problem with, not a problem, but I understood it, but I just felt it was kind of like going on too long. De Niro surviving being shot in the chest and then being found on the road and hunted down and, you know, into the electrified fence and all that. I understand it was poetic justice. It was, you know, his comeuppance for what he'd been spruiking. But it just felt unnecessary. Like, just leave it at him being shot. I just felt, leave it at him being shot by Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, you could have done that.
Yeah, okay, you don't get the poetic justice, but we're not, like, that poetic justice bit was probably lost on a heap of people.
But that would have worked for Don Johnson as well. Like, he could have done that part that they did with De Niro to anybody. So he could have been shot by Lindsay Lohan, and you still could have had that little coda of him at the fence there. Yeah. But with any of those characters, really. But it's sort of...
Because De Niro was a minor player. Maybe it wasn't worth having him out.
Yeah, it sort of felt like, I don't know, because Seagal was kind of this overarching nemesis, it sort of felt like there was two beginnings to the movie, and then kind of the ending went on a lot longer. There was sort of two revenge tales because he had to take it against Seagal and then against Jeff Fahey and his crew as well.
Well, it felt like
so
there was too many villains too, Jared.
Well, yeah, it probably played a part in it taking a little bit longer down the stretch. I don't know. I feel like maybe they had the story there, but then they got the opportunity to use Seagal and kind of shoehorn that character in or something like that. Not that it didn't work. It definitely worked for
I
parts
actually
of
felt that De Niro was more the shoehorn. Like,
yeah, De Niro was a little bit too. Like
it kind of felt like you get De Niro. He says, "Yeah, I'm interested. I can give you a couple of days."
Yeah,
we had to find something for him to do.
But it just seemed like you got the setup at the start, but then when, we go to America and Jessica Alba's there taking photos of Machete, we then get another start to a revenge story that just happens to be tied into Seagal.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe it was a little bit, maybe it could have done with one of those characters being pared back a little bit.
I could have seen no De Niro and having Jeff Fahey take that role. Or something of that nature.
Yeah, I'm sure that it could have worked in some fashion, possibly without one of those characters. But there again, that's fairly minor. Like I did enjoy all those parts with those guys, but as a story, it probably falls a little bit there.
Yeah, because I just think Jeff Fahey and De Niro were so closely aligned. But again, this is what makes me think you get Robert De Niro to be in your film. You want him to use him.
Well,
so
you don't
use
knock
him
it back, do you?
No, you don't knock it back. So in a way, you're kind of like, okay, we need to find something for him to do. And yes, I felt it worked out fine in a sense of everybody got the payoff that we required and everything like that. And there was enough of an arc, so to speak, for each character. That's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're looking at it strictly from the point of view of screen time, you can kind of see that players only had a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Because they're only in it for a short period.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other dislikes for you?
No, that was it for me.
All right. That is Machete.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can put the Machete Kills and Planet Terror on the coming attractions.
I would
down the line.
say so. Yes, I also have not seen Machete Kills, so I'd like to find out how over the top that is.
Yeah, and we're still waiting for Machete Kills in Space. Which
I saw that mentioned on IMDb. I was like, oh, is there a third one that says hasn't been?
Trailers. Yeah, the trailer is in the second one, and it's piss funny. But
is it also a Robert Rodriguez film?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did that one as well. So, but the talk is it's never really died. Like it's still kind of there bubbling away, but we don't have anything confirmed for it yet. I would suggest it's probably never going to be made. But if you see the trailer, yeah, I fucking wish we could have it.
Well, I'll put it this way: the box office, I believe, is half for the sequel, so maybe that's why
it did decline a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe that's why things
or a
are sort
big
of
bit, I should say.
Yeah. All right, that's Machete. You can find us on Podomatic, iTunes, and Spotify. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au or on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia and at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. We're also on Instagram at thrillmepodcastau. Remember to rate and review if possible so we can get the word out. Our next episode, one of our listeners, Luke, who's on Instagram, he threw this one out at us. It's from 2019. It's called VFW. I have seen a little bit of info about this film and I'm very interested to see what it's like. So Luke has given us a heads up and said it's a good one. So we will give it a run.
I read a little bit in, it was either Horror Hound or Fango, I can't remember. It might have even been both. But they had some articles in there about them. So yeah, it was definitely on my radar. So happy to check that one out.
Absolutely. But until then, take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves, and we'll catch up with you later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.